Hey everyone, today we're going to take a deep dive into the blueprint behind pretty much every great piece of software you use. We're talking about the software development lifecycle, or as you'll often hear it, the SDLC. So, have you ever wondered how that brilliant idea you have, for a new app or a website, actually becomes a real, tangible thing? I mean, it can seem like magic, right? But behind the curtain, there's a really structured, methodical process at play. And that process is there for a good reason. Because without a plan, well, software development can spiral into chaos fast. Just think about it. Requirements are constantly changing, technology gets updated, and you've got different teams that need to work in perfect sync. Just jumping straight into coding without a roadmap is pretty much a recipe for disaster. All right, so here's what we're going to cover in this breakdown. We'll start with what the SDLC actually is, then talk about why it's so critical. We'll walk through the core development steps, glance at some of the different models out there, and finally, touch on how security fits into the whole picture. Okay, let's kick things off with the absolute basics. What exactly is this thing we call the SDLC? At its core, the SDLC is basically a framework. It's a defined set of steps for producing high-quality software. But, this isn't just about following a process for the sake of it. The real goal here is all about efficiency. It's about minimizing risks, staying on time and on budget, and making sure that the final product meets or even exceeds what the customer was expecting. A great way to think about it is like an architectural blueprint for a building, or maybe the GPS you use for a road trip. It brings order, predictability, and a shared understanding to what can otherwise be a really complex and chaotic process. It's that structured path from idea all the way to launch. All right, so why do teams even go to the trouble of implementing this formal process? What are the actual real-world benefits? Oh, the benefits are huge. An SDLC gives everyone involved, from developers to managers to the clients themselves, a really clear picture of the project. And what does that lead to? Well, better planning, more accurate cost estimates, and way better risk management. Ultimately, it's all about moving from chaos to clarity, delivering a reliable product, and keeping customers happy by making sure everyone is on the same page. Okay, now let's get to the heart of the matter. What are the actual steps in this lifecycle? So, most SDLCs follow about 6 main phases. It all kicks off with planning, which is all about gathering requirements and analyzing the feasibility of the project. Next up is design, where the technical architecture gets mapped out. Then you get to implementation. That's where the actual coding happens. The testing phase is, you guessed it, dedicated to finding bugs and making sure everything works as it should. Once the software is stable, it's time for deployment, where it gets rolled out to users. And finally, there's maintenance, which covers ongoing support and updates. Now, even though those steps are pretty standard, how you actually move through them can change a lot. And that's where the different SDLC models come into the picture. The two you'll hear about most often are waterfall and agile. So waterfall is the traditional approach. It's linear, it's sequential. Just like a waterfall, right? You completely finish one phase before you can move on to the next. It's super disciplined, but not very flexible. Agile, on the other hand, is all about flexibility. It works in these small, iterative cycles called sprints, which lets teams adapt to changes on the fly. And there are other models too. The iterative model builds on initial versions, which is great for spotting risks early. The spiral model combines elements of waterfall and prototyping, making it ideal for those really big, complex projects. See, every model has its own strengths and weaknesses. The key takeaway is that you've got to pick the right tool for your specific job. Okay, so we've got our process models figured out. But how does the SDLC fit in with modern challenges, like cybersecurity? And where does it sit in the grand scheme of technology development? This is exactly where something called DevSecOps comes in. See, in the old days, security was often an afterthought, something you checked at the very end. That is a massive risk. The modern approach, DevSecOps, is all about embedding security into every single step of the SDLC, from planning and coding to testing and deployment. It's about making security a shared responsibility right from day one. It's also important to zoom out a little. The SDLC is really just one piece of a much bigger puzzle, the system development lifecycle. Think of it this way. If the SDLC is about building the engine for a car, the system development lifecycle is about designing the entire car, the engine, the chassis, the electronics, and even the owner's manual for the driver. And if we zoom out even one more level, the SDLC is just one single phase inside what's called Application Lifecycle Management, or ALM. You can think of ALM as the entire biography of an application, from that very first spark of an idea all the way to the day it's eventually retired. The SDLC is just that really exciting chapter in the biography where the application actually gets built. So when it all comes down to it, the main idea is pretty simple. Awesome software doesn't just happen by accident. As the slide says, it's the result of moving from chaos to a planned, deliberate process. A framework like the SDLC isn't just a nice to have, it's an absolute necessity for success. It provides the structure you need to turn that spark of an idea into a tangible, high-quality product that people can actually use and rely on. And that leaves us with one final thought. What's the plan for your next big idea? Thanks for watching.